You're listening to Condos Unplugged, the online podcast that brings real condo conversations right to your screen. We're talking challenges, successes, and everything in between with the people who know condos best. Each episode, we unpack stories, share solutions, and give you insights that make navigating condo life a little easier. Let's get this conversation started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Condos Unplugged. I am Jen Green, joined as always by my co-host, Brad Wells, and we're so glad that you're here with us. Today, we're talking about the board of directors and the property management, who they are, what they do, and how they're supposed to work together. And most importantly, how do you choose the right person for the job? Because we all know the right leadership can make a building thrive, or the wrong fit, well, that's a whole other episode. This kind of conversation is that can genuinely change how your condo community operates. So whether you're sitting on the board, thinking about joining one, or you're a unit owner and just want to understand a little bit more about the people making the decisions about your home, stick around because this one's for you. And before we jump in, a big thank you to our partner sponsor, SV Law, trusted legal advisors to condominium communities. We're grateful for the continued support of this show. All right, let's get into it.
All right, Jen, thanks for that nice intro. This is an exciting episode for me because I am also a property manager.
I'm surrounded by three of you.
Shane and Jennifer, we're not going to ask, you don't have to give numbers unless you really want to, but it's great to have a couple other seasoned vets on here that have worn the property manager badge for many years. So we are excited about this. I also think this, how do we talk about this topic of managers and boards in less than an hour? But we'll do our best and get as much discussion going as we can. So first, I'd love to introduce our great guest today. I'm excited to have both of them on. I'm just going to ask you to kind of give your brief bio and kind of what you're into right now, work-wise or personal-wise in your life. So Jennifer, why don't we start with you?
Thank you to today's episode sponsor, CIE Property Management and Consulting, Inc., condominium management that works for you.
Thanks so much, Brad. And thanks for having me here. It's always a pleasure to connect with industry professionals through the CCI platform. So my name is Jennifer Beaver. I started in the industry in 2006 as a superintendent and worked my way up through my postgrad degree in human resources and then slid on into the property management field as an HR representative, really working hard to hire the right people, make sure that they're well trained, and match them with the property. That was always a big thing. So I spent the first 10 years of my career doing that. And then I opened CIE Property Management in 2016. And we've been rocking it out of Milton since then. So pretty fun and fun ride for sure, 10 years. And lots of ups and downs when you think about business ownership. But really love working in the condo sector, love working with all the professionals, and of course the team that we're working with at CIE has been fantastic. And well, let's not shy away from the boards. It's always fun to meet new boards, connect with them, see how our services either align with their needs or don't, and walk through that process.
That's awesome, Jen, and congratulations on 10 years.
Yeah. I was going to say 10 years probably went really fast, but also feels like you've been doing it forever at the same time, right? So congratulations on that.
Especially during COVID.
We may get into this later in the discussion, but visual, I'll just drop a visual before we go to Shane. Matching managers with boards or properties, it's like we need a Tinder version of that, right? Like you can... Swipe right or left.
Swipe right or left.
Right? Is this? I'm not sure who would do the picking. If there's a board or the manager doing the picking, maybe a little of both. Anyways, Shane Haskell, welcome.
Thank you to today's episode sponsor, Lionheart Property Management, bringing passion, people, properties, and technologies together.
All right, thanks so much. Excited to be here. I'm Shane Haskell. I'm the CEO and president of Lionheart Property Management and president and realtor of Lionheart Realty. We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary, so yeah.
Oh, congrats!
Thank you. It's definitely been a ride. I've been involved in CCI right since the beginning in 2011. Currently, I am the chair of the Advertising, Resources, and Communications Committee of National Executive. I was a former board member on National Executive. I am a board member of CCI Toronto, and I lead the marketing committee of CCI Toronto. I was past president of the London Property Management Association, and I also sit on the discipline committee of CMRAO. So I very heavily invested
How do
in
you
the
find
industry.
time for anything
Oh,
else?
I kind of have a business to run too on the
Right.
side. Yeah, so yeah, I once upon had hair. Yeah.
Right.
So now I just wear those many hats. So
That's
yes.
right. That's
Anyway,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Some of them. Thanks,
Excellent.
Shane.
It's my
That's
pleasure.
that's awesome. Well, we are going to have a really dynamic and fun and unplugged conversation. So I'm actually going to start something new on this podcast. So we're episode 3 today, and I'm starting. I want to do like a would you rather kind of thing, but more playful. So I have questions for each of you, and I want you to answer the question, but then also tell us why. Okay, why your answer is the way it is. So we'll start with Jennifer. So, would you rather deal with a midnight fire alarm every week or a broken elevator every Monday morning?
I would take the elevator every Monday morning. The rationale is because I like to sleep. I'm not a fan of being woken up at midnight. I am a human who loves sleep. So that's why. Pure and
Fair.
simple. They're both problematic. They're both super challenging from a work perspective. But if you give me a Monday morning challenge, I am ready for it. I am wide awake, coffee in, and ready to go. But in the middle of the night, I have to work a lot harder to answer that phone, and I have to work a lot harder to be like awake. So I'm going to go with sleep and
Okay.
Monday morning elevators all week, all month, all year, no problem.
Now, Jen, with your property managers, I just have a follow-up question to that. Are you notified if there's a fire alarm in any of the buildings that you manage, company-wide? Or is it only if it's an actual? Okay, you are. Wow.
I personally am not, though, I will say.
I
Okay.
was going to say there's a perk to be the business owner.
Yeah, the company is notified. I sleep.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay, Shane, yours is, would you rather have constant noise complaints or constant parking disputes?
I would say the parking disputes.
You would prefer.
Because I would prefer the parking disputes, because probably you're going to call and have them either ticketed or towed, or but obviously you're going to start with compliance letters and do the enforcement that way. But I would much prefer the parking.
I guess it's also easier to see a parking problem than it is. Noise issues are so difficult
Oh,
to pinpoint. Like, where is it coming
who
from?
is it?
Yes.
Exactly.
Subjective too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I want you to tell us about your 4 Ps.
I was going to say we're definitely going to get into that, but I
We
mean,
are.
yeah, exactly. So I always had this theory that the three problem areas in property management were always parking, people, and pets. And then during COVID, we kind of added a fourth one, which was parcels. And parcels being a huge issue now. I mean, some condo buildings, they could have a full-time person just dealing with parcels. So, and then you got the garbage issue that goes around the parcels because now you have all this cardboard and you're trying to get rid of all the extra waste and so on. So yeah, so the parcels have definitely become an issue. I know in the building that I live in, we had to add a parcel room. Now the policies around it, if you don't pick it up, would ship it back or it's sent to offsite storage or whatever the case may be. So it definitely parcels of it added to that.
And I
The
love
four
that because
Ps.
it is really like an umbrella over everything that we're going to talk about today, right? So it is really all those things. So thank you. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. That was our first Would You Rather. Well done.
Excellent.
I love it. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that. Would you rather? Shane, just interested. Jennifer gave us a little bit of her background. What got you into the property management, condominium management space?
I'm like Jennifer. I never actually worked in condo management prior to starting Lionheart. I just kind of fell into it, like most people. My background is actually in banking. Try that again. Okay. Like most people, I kind of fell into the business. I have a background in banking, marketing, project management. So I owned my own rental properties, and so I decided to get my real estate license. And one of the courses that I took was actually in property management. And so I thought, well, being the type A personality that I am, I'm actually going to start my own property management company and look after my rental portfolio and help others. One of my first employees that I hired actually, though, come with condo management experience. And so I had friends on condo boards, and we just kind of went down that rabbit hole. And here we are. About 90% of my business now is condo management. We still have a small residential and commercial division, and the real estate operations now as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so I want to get into, how you function, what your, day to day, what a week looks like for you. Maybe Jennifer, we'll start with you. What does that look like? And I know it's busy, and I know it's crazy, and I know you guys get so many emails, but give it to me.
I feel like that's such a loaded question, isn't it? Like, I think all of us have worked in this industry for long enough to know that it really depends on the day, what month, what week of the month you're in, like the cycle of the properties that you're managing, etc. But really, overall, we're here to really focus on the client's needs at any given time. So it's a lot of correspondence back and forth, responding to service requests, etc., prepping for projects, creating RFPs, management reports. Oh gosh, management reports they're every manager's favorite tool. I think that they don't like that very much, but management reports are super important, and really collaborating, working with the board of directors and the community needs, and kind of navigating forward on that. And what I would say is, like, a typical day is wake up, grab a lot of coffee, decide whether it's a day that you're hanging out on your computer or if you're hitting a property or two or three or four, and really kind of planning for that. So whatever you're doing today, you didn't just come up with today. You came up with it last week, for example. My weeks are planned the week before so that I really know how to prioritize my clients' needs and make sure I have capacity for any ad hoc or emergency related matters that need to happen as well. So I would say, Shane, like, how do you want to dovetail into that? That's such a question, hey?
Oh, exactly. Because I mean, to me, there is really no typical day. Sure, you have your legislative deadlines, you have your contractual deadlines that you have to always work in. But besides that, everything else is just kind of, okay, surprise, what are we going to do today? And you have the opportunities to actually tackle those challenges, if you will, that come in. Every day is something different. You never really know what that's going to be. Sometimes it's just an opportunity to make someone smile and actually make their day. So, there's that. But I like the analogy, though, that the property manager is actually the hub, and they're the heart of this tire. And you got all of the spokes, and the spokes are our stakeholders. And, there are boards, there are residents, there are engineers, auditors, CMREO, CAO, all of those people, those are all of our spokes. And if any of those spokes are broken, we can't move the wheel forward, right? And so our job is to be that actual hub and keep all of those people happy and keep the momentum going. I kind of think of us as that heart, that whole, not Lionheart, but the actual heart. Yeah. and, and so we just.
Way to
we
work
move
that in
wheel
there. I
forward.
love it.
Oh, thank you. No, a little self-marketing there. I do come in a marketing background, right?
I know.
I told you. I got a little self-marketing.
I love it. I have a funny question. Every property manager that I've talked to, which is many, they all talk about the emails, and especially Monday morning emails, right? Because people over the weekend, they're set their complaint. You get an inbox full of complaints. Is that the reality?
Email is the
Brad,
devil.
you can answer this too.
Yeah, and especially after a long weekend,
Yes.
you just come back and you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
my eyes are glued on today, and all of a sudden we're just going to here we go,
Yeah.
and it just
So I would say for us, we've stepped away from email for our customer service experience, and we've moved into a service request portal concept, so that they're able to streamline those communications into kind of a centralized location. When you look at your manager's responsibilities, there are some high-level things that they really need to tend to, and because of that, we want to make sure that our team is structured in a way where the managers can deal with those kind of matters, and perhaps somebody else that's working closely on that property, a property coordinator or a property administrator, can support the unit owner at base first level and then escalate up to the manager as needed, just so that the inbox, which honestly, I've never really mastered my inbox. That thing is a beast. And so I just want to try and support my staff by having that kind of streamlined communication so that escalations go to the PMs, but the Monday morning overwhelm can sit with a team who's fully prepared to handle that.
Yeah.
That mechanism or that portal too might actually take away some of the, not, what's the word? I have to be polite when I say this, but things that don't really matter. You know what I mean? Like if someone was just to email off some kind of silly communication about something that they saw or did, or that might remove some of that, some of that stuff that you don't really need to know.
There's so many things in people's email, and it's not just one person that may be dealing with that.
Yeah.
And so having the portal approach is, it's all in one spot. And when something pops up a year from now, 2 years from now, I'm big on timelines and trying to figure out exactly what happened, when, and by who, and then fill in the gaps, right? But a lot of times you got to go search email from assistants, financial assistants, the manager at that particular time, or maybe they're a previous employee. And going through and trying to do a search and trying to put all of the components together to figure out what actually happened it's so time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
Service requests, portals, those are, thank you. They've been
everyone accountable.
the solution to all this. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad to hear you both say that. I mean, we know that's been changing in our industry for a few years, right? Where there's more adoption and more acceptance of types of service portals or apps or different versions of those, and there's multiple to choose from, and there's pros and cons for many of them. I mean, really, to me, the successful ones are when the management company and the board can get the residents all to buy in with that's the platform we're all using together to make the service experience better, right? And that's the key, because otherwise it becomes just another piece to your inbox and your phone calls and all the other ways that people get a hold of us. But ultimately we want to be able to serve the customers, right? And that's an important piece, because to Jen, your point, we get a lot of, silly's probably not the right word, but less important priority items. Like, I can tell you the owner that calls in or emails in or enters the service request because they need a key for their guest or they've lost their key, that's the most important thing in their life, to get into their home. Meanwhile, to Jennifer's point, like the manager is probably working on multiple projects and
yes.
bigger things that they also need to spend and dedicate time to. So I think from my experience, and I'm actually going to just quick segue here, because we were saying property manager. The title of the thing is property manager. I really like that we use condominium manager now more often than just property manager or community manager, because the condominium is not just the property. I always say the property is pretty easy to manage, right? Because that's just the physical property, and there's lots to do, but it's the community and the condominium as a whole, which includes all the people and all the legislation and all the other things we have to do that really hits home.
That's a very good point.
So my experience, I want to hear yours. What defines a really good condominium manager? And I think one of those keys is, how do they prioritize? How do they do that task management? And the ones that are successful, obviously, you've both created systems and ways that you're able to develop that for yourself, and then support a company doing that as well. But what things, including time management, task management, makes a great condominium manager?
In a world where everything moves fast, from high-rises reaching for the sky to townhouses lining our streets, condominium communities can't afford financial setbacks. When condo fees go unpaid, one firm rises above the rest. SV Law, Ontario's leading lien force. When every moment matters, they deliver.
So I wouldn't say tasks or any of that. I think that's a learned thing. I would say their people skills. So I would say that one of the biggest lessons that I learned early on in my career is, you can train people how to do this, 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 and this, like sequentially and methodically. But you can't always train the personality to be empathetic or compassionate or kind or caring, because like Brad said, a lost key, that is the most important thing to that homeowner in that moment, without a doubt. There is no question. And so it has to be, you have to respond to that person as if it is the most important thing to them. It might not be to you, and it might even feel like an inconvenience, but the last thing you can do is create that environment for the customer. So I would say, above all, and it's something I learned throughout my career, the people side really matters. And so a manager with great people skills, plus being able to triage and prioritize and task management, you have a solid winner there. So that's where I would go.
We might even call that a unicorn, Jennifer.
Yeah. Perhaps.
Yes, we have a lot of them in our industry, that's for sure. Shane, what comes to your mind as far as a great condominium manager?
To me, I mean, again, it's about the people management. This is a people business. The property is the second portion to that, right? I mean, you can hire anybody to put a nail in a piece of wood, and that's there. But it's the people skills. It's that, right? And when I actually hire, I like to hire people that have come from a hospitality type industry. They have the people skills. They, bartenders, servers, flight attendants. They have that ability to kind of diffuse and, reflect and actually be able to handle conflict in that type of scenario. I can teach you condo. I need the people skills. And so, to me, that's what makes or breaks this industry. You need to be able to deal with people.
Yeah. And it's sometimes also like going above and beyond.
And I like the alignment, the pulling from transferable industries. I know, I think all three of our companies, Brad's, myself, and Shane's, I think we all do that. It's so important to pull in skills from all over and really nurture the condo world so that everybody's successful.
Yeah, just before Jen goes on, I think maybe to communication stuff. Again, the pool of condominium managers is not growing without us, the companies, adding to that pool, right? And through training and development, not many people just go to school to become a condo manager, right? That's the reality. And so we got to find the right people and then give them the skills for sure. Jen, you're going to ask about communication.
How do you know that?
Right?
It's like you're reading my mind.
It's like we planned for this.
Well, communication, I mean, and that also comes into what we were talking about, people skills. Communication is a big one, and communication between the manager and the board. I'm a board member, and I have a good relationship with my condominium manager. So how do you manage that in your respective roles and companies? Like, what is that? What does that look like? What's the frequency? How does that communication play out?
I can jump in, take that if you like. Essentially, I mean, we've already talked about how bad email is, and the whole goal is to actually get less and less email coming into the manager's inbox, and so transparency is key. So the goal is that central repository. So we're actually putting systems in place again, and we're talking about these portals and so on. So we've actually given our board members 24/7 access to a specific portal that is designed for board business. And so they have that ability to see all the projects and the activities and the inspections and the financials, status certificates, minutes, everything. And then on top of that, they get a weekly digest of everything that has happened during that week. So what's been completed, what needs attention, what's coming up next week. And then we do our monthly managers reports that Jennifer alluded to that, are just sometimes overwhelming, but at the same time, that documentation is key to give to the boards. And so all of that information's there. They can go search it whenever they want and however they want to do that. But then also giving them access to the full procurement system as well. So they're going to see it right from request right through to when that invoice is paid. So giving them that access, you can go there, do 24/7. And so So it actually alleviates hundreds of emails to managers going, what's the status of this project? What's the status of that? What's happening with this? Where's our minutes? Where's our board meeting package? But it's right there. Go get
It's
it.
right there. You can
So
access it
yeah,
yourself.
you can access it, and actually, it's cut down my manager's preparation time of these reports and the amount of emails significantly. So
Brilliant.
having that access there, everything's linkable, and look at this activity, and you can see the activity right from the moment it's created to every single update that it's happened, and then that again is pumped out automatically by the system to give them that board update.
Amazing. That's incredible. I haven't worked with a property or condominium manager yet that has a similar system as that, but that sounds fantastic.
I love technology.
Yeah,
If you can
back and
automate
forth.
something, then the easier. Just to Brad's point, the number of condominium managers are not fruitful. There's not a lot of people coming into this industry, so it's important. And something that I've done, just kind of on a little side note as well, is everything that I can possibly remove from a manager's role that doesn't require a license, I've done it. So I've created an operations team. I have the administration team. All of the periodic information certificates, the information certificates, the status certificates, those are all done centrally and all done in the administration area. Sure, the manager still reviews, signs off, that type of thing, but they don't need to actually complete the documents. So just removing that amount of legwork and that time to actually do that. Every one of my managers has an assistant. That's how I bring the inexperienced people in that have the background. They're an assistant to that manager and they learn from the ground up. That has been the most important and the most beneficial to my business.
Amazing.
Jennifer, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so from the portal perspective, I'm just going to back it right up there. We do the exact same thing. It's really, really important that the portal exists. It's available to our board. So we have a board level and we also have an owner's level. And so we do have keep helpful things like an insurance certificate. Every time you're looking to renew your mortgage, you need your insurance certificate. So Brad, if you're a client of ours and you slide in at 12 o'clock at night because you're trying to pull it all together quickly, you can get it and it's available to you as a homeowner. And that's, I think, really important to our homeowners that they have kind of just-in-time information and quick wins for them. And then our board's exactly the same setup that Shane mentioned. It's really important that our boards know what's happening and when. I think the only real difference is we do a bi-weekly digest versus a weekly digest. And we also do our monthly reports. And then we started about a month ago, creating our board reports entirely from the system. So that's actually reduced significant time from our managers and they're loving it. So we're still transitioning our properties through, but it's really quite a robust tool and it's saving that time. Like Shane said, we can't have our managers doing absolutely everything. And if they're sitting every Friday doing reports, then you know what? They're not able to tend to some of the other items. So they're in fact able to just pull the report directly from, create the PDF with the attachments and send the package onto the board. And then I found the payment system going online is such an incredible tool as well. So Shane definitely mentioned that, and I feel like the numbers, if you think of like one area that you should really pay attention to as a condo board member, it's the numbers, right? Like where are they at? What are the bills that are being paid? And having that transparency for access is really key and really important. So I completely agree with what Shane said earlier and the importance of the portal as well as the payment system. That is key. And oddly enough, Shane, I know you and I have never even met, so this is just super strange to me, but awesome. Great minds think alike. Let's go there.
Absolutely.
Because we also have centralized teams that take care of the non-licensed work so that our managers are still the final approvals, still the final on everything, but the initial research and administrative component to that is being done by our operations team back at our office. So really cool on that. Thank you for sharing your experience, and I'm glad to hear that there are other forward-thinking companies out there. I know there's so many great management firms, but it's really cool to hear that you've also picked up on a similar efficiency that we have, and it's neat to watch our managers be able to thrive in that environment.
This is
Yeah,
so
I
funny.
think Jennifer, I was just
Sorry.
going to say, like with the pool of managers, and we've referred to a couple times, like we have to do that as management companies to empower and provide our condominium managers the space to do what they're licensed for and do what they're good at, but also provide that service level that is expected and needed, right, to our customers. So that's great. I know there's, we've been doing this long enough that we probably remember the day where no one was doing weekly or biweekly updates, and even the management reports were either non-existent or very poor, detail-wise. But I'm glad that both of you experienced that with your companies. I know I have. When you do provide that information proactively, regularly, and the managers experience that, yes, there's maybe a little bit of a hesitancy that, it's extra work, I have to do all this extra stuff. But by doing that work, the volume comes down so much because you're proactively providing that information, right, as a piece. Jen, I was going to go into really.
I just wanted to say before we continue
please
on,
go
I
ahead.
didn't know
Please.
that you both didn't know each other.
No, not at all.
We in this whole conversation and even the prelim, we never discussed this. I didn't know that you didn't know each other. Look at Condos Unplugged bringing people together, right? Well, that's
My
awesome.
new best friend.
I know, that's right. In all the conferences,
Let's hook up for a coffee. We'll
Let's do it. Let's do it.
fabulous. Brad, you have something? Do you
Yeah,
have
well, I just thinking on the roles still. I always like to talk through this, and I'd like to hear our experts' opinions here. The roles, so the roles of the condominium manager and the role of the board. We often get some conflict. We often get some turbulence there of what the manager's supposed to do, what the board's supposed to do, and I think there are some areas and gray areas and ways that those can be different from community to community for sure. But I've always, we've talked through CCI, and one of the things we always say is directors direct and managers manage. But practically, how do you see that play out, and what does that mean to you, and how do you see those roles defined? Jennifer, we'll start with you.
If I was to just melt it down to the very bottom of this, I would say it really depends on the people involved. Boards are comprised of volunteers from their community. They bring different skills and different personalities to the table. Some of our managers want to do their whole jobs, but the boards want to do some of it too. So it's, how do you find the balance, right? Like, how do you say, okay, respectfully, this is what we would typically do, but clearly if this is in your desire to perform, then, have at it and here's some direction, So I feel like it's really so dependent on the personalities involved, the skills that they bring to the table. The last thing I'm going to do is go head to head with a CA on the board who's a financial expert, and he's asking me a question and I'm going, oof.
your laugh there when you when you transitioned from the first? Did we all catch that? You went like, ha ha. It's so great. No, but it's so true. And I have a CA on my board right now, and it's a similar you let us know about the financials. He's an expert. That's what he did for his career.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah.
Let the people who have the expertise in any one area manage that piece, right? And as a property manager, we do report to the boards.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's really important that when we're working with the boards, we're respecting that relationship. And also, sometimes there's times where we have to say, oh, hey, might be stepping outside, or we're getting close to the boundaries here. Maybe we should have a quick chat and pull it all back together and kind of regroup. So honestly, I think board and management relationships just truly depend on the personalities involved. I will say too, I sit on my condo board as well, and it's a different experience sitting from on the other side of the table and working in with that. And I think it's really important that there's collaboration and a desire to work towards the common goal. And as long as you have that common goal, you almost always have success. And I kind of define the common goal as like the betterment for the community and the owners as a whole. So whatever that needs to look like, then that should be the general goal. Shane?
I was going to say that, I mean, that's a tough one because, I mean, you have some boards that are so hands off to the complete contrary, right? Which it's actually a problem because they don't provide the direction, and to the opposite extreme where you have boards that, are trying to do everything. So I kind of set the goal is boards govern and set the direction. Our role as management is actually to build the process and the structure, and the staff and the vendors are the ones that are actually going to execute. So that's kind of the thought process that I have as far as kind of setting that role or defining the role, if you will. Where it actually gets messy is when the boards actually feel that they need to micromanage, and sometimes that actually comes from bad past relationships, and they feel that it's absolutely necessary that they have their hand in every single project, every single task. And it's, no, thank you. I got this. I appreciate that, but let me do my role. So I'll come to you if I need that guidance, but they don't need to be involved in the day-to-day operations. That's what they've hired us to do.
Yeah.
I will come to you when I need assistance, but there are still those people that they need to be in control and they need to be involved in every single task.
Shane, do you think that it's typically new or inexperienced boards that act that way, that micromanage?
No.
Really?
I mean, you would think that it would be the new boards that are actually, they're invested. They want to know how things operate. Not so much. I mean, there is some there's truth to that, but I think it's the professionals that are on the boards that could come with, the CAs or their engineers or their auditors or their, they need to have their finger on the pulse. And I mean, that's not always a bad thing. But sometimes the smartest director is not the best director. So we need to, kind of toe that line and try to stick to the definition of, okay, you govern and let us actually set the process and actually execute. So it is a fine line, but it's respectfully, let me do my contractual obligations.
Well, I will add into that and maybe follow up with your thoughts. So that's, you guys painted a nice picture, right? That's the way it's supposed to be, and we know there's some of those tensions. Let's be honest. We all have a condo commando, right? Where a board member has kind of taken control and really maybe gone down the wrong path in some ways, where it's bordering on the line of illegal or against the act or whatever. I mean, that's just the reality. Or it's just not a decision that's best for the community from our experience. And certainly we have that experience to share. But at the same time, there are clients, right? There's that tension that's there, that's real. So when there's a board that has made a bad decision or is in the process of making one, what do you do? How do you approach that? How do you head off that disagreement or provide your advice in that sticky situation, Jennifer?
You sure?
Well, we all know we face these situations, so we just want your advice. Like, what do you do?
I know. It's a reality, and it is one that you face as a condominium manager. You face it multiple times in your career. It's not a singular event. It can happen for a number of different reasons. I think the best thing you can do is making sure that your advice to the board collective is along the lines of appropriate for whatever the situation is, based on industry standards. So sometimes you can have a rogue board member that is supported by the board, and sometimes you can have rogue board members that are not supported by the board. Those are my favorite ones to deal with because usually we can deal with them through the collaborations of the other 2 or 4 board members and kind of reposition things. But when you have a full board going down a path that just doesn't make a lot of sense, they're not willing to listen, they won't So let's say they won't listen to the manager. We escalate up to next level. You know, we've gone through the escalation points within our company. They're not listening. And then we say, okay, listen, we've done everything we can to support you. This is the direction you want to go in. Can we please seek advice from your legal counsel? Right? Calling in the next steps, or it might not be legal. It could be, can we please seek the advice from the engineer? Right? Like, there are multiple different experts that we can lean into, and I think it's really important that we offer, or hopefully put in front of, the expert in that specific area, so that the board can kind of lean into that, hear their perspective, and hear either how it's possible, when, or how it's not possible, and why.
Yeah, no, I fully, completely understand that. So, like Jennifer said, it does happen more often than not. So, we get into these situations where, you know, we wear a lot of hats. We get called a lot of names, but a name that we should be called is an actual risk translator. So we translate risk for the board, whether it's financial, reputational, legal, safety. We are actually giving and relaying that type of information to the actual board. And, you know, you have to take the position that you can't do this, but rather you actually, if you go down this path, this is the risk associated with going down that path. So, you know, they need to understand the risk associated with the decision they're about to make. So whether they're illegal or against the act or whatever the situation is, you need to be able to demonstrate this is what's going to happen if you go down that path. So either you get a lawyer involved, depending on what the situation is, or you're setting it up with the board that they're going to do a board resolution, or you're going to minute that they're going against the advice that you gave them. That's very important. I think, you know, an example I always use is, you know, the one board member that wants the owners and the renters or the tenants' email and phone numbers. Well, for what purpose do you want that information? And they can't give you a reason why they want that information. I mean, it is a breach of the Privacy Act. We have to be very careful with releasing that type of information. So I always have them sign a board resolution. This is the purpose for which you want this information, and that the whole board is on side with that. And you're going to sign that resolution before I give you that information, because I'm not about to set the corporation or myself up for liability because somebody wants information that I shouldn't be providing. So that's always a fun one that I get into. Well, why won't you give me that information? Well, why do you want it? So, you know, give me, you know, like, help me here. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
Okay, I have a controversial quote from a book. I had a conversation with a dear friend who actually is a dear friend of everyone here, Rob Mullen, SV Law, partner sponsor of our Condos Unplugged. Thank you, SV Law. In a conversation I had with him yesterday, he was telling me that he was reading this book called Condo Conquest by Randy Lippert is the gentleman. And it's from 2019, but I want to read it to you, and I want to get your perspective on this quote. So the condo is becoming less and less controlled by an elected board of owners representing, residing in, and acting in the interest of the long-term well-being of the residential community, and is more and more being conquered by external, commercial, and private agents. The non-resident investors, property managers, lawyers, security providers, real estate agents, the CAs. I'm gonna say I agree with it. As a board member, I agree with it, because I think that not all board members have, they come in new and inexperienced, and they rely on the expertise of these individuals. I've been on a board for almost 10 years, so I'm not that case, but someone that's brand new, who've been on 1 year, 6 months, they are heavily relying on these experts in the space to guide and manage and function, have that condo function. Do you agree?
I'll throw out the first piece when I hear that quote is, I think the most risk there is the non-resident owners. And there's nothing wrong with non-resident owners. I've been one myself. But when non-resident owners have control of a board, that drastically changes the direction that the corporation can take, because they mostly only have one thing in mind, and that's lowest fees possible, because it's an investment property for them, where it's not considering the community as a whole. So out of that group of list of in that quote, I think to me that's the biggest risk, because you want to, and that's why our act has protections around how elections are had, how we have elections, to make sure that the resident owners always have a voice for elections on the board, which is very important. I think relying on those other experts is absolutely crucial, back to Shane's point on risk, right? There's so much potential liability running a corporation, which it is a corporation, right? That these condominiums are corporations, that the elected board members who are volunteers absolutely must take that outside advice while making their decisions for the betterment of the community, with that external advice. Like, I think that there's a line there, but I think we cannot not rely on that. Like, it's super important.
Absolutely. And the risk to the property manager who are managing this process, you have to do it in a certain way so that your condo, isn't broke. That type of thing. Like, it is the managers leading that charge.
Yeah, Jen, I agree. And I think I'm a big proponent in surrounding yourself by experts, right? Like, here's the thing. We kind of chatted about how, a board member can come on and they're a CA. Well, great, they're a CA, but they're not an engineer, right? Or they're not a lawyer. And guess what? They're not often, although probably some, condo industry people. So the thing is we work with boards often where they'll have a perspective and we say, yes, that perspective makes a lot of sense based on your lens. However, here's the lens of condo world. And so it's super important to consider both while you're considering your final decision. So it's about putting those experts in front of them so that they can have more information than not, and ensuring that don't just put one engineer. If it's a technical building failure system problem, get multiple opinions. It's not a problem. And the more information that someone can have, the better they can make a decision. So at the end of the day, that's kind of where I sit on that quote. I think it's really important that elected board members do go outside and consider other perspectives in order to make the better decision, or the best possible decision, for the community as a whole.
Absolutely. I agree. Those professionals are key in, being able to rely upon those, but actually having them on the board and, being the non-resident or, piece there. Obviously it's still a problem, because that is one of the Condo Act changes that is being pushed forward, right? That, some of the other ones didn't, but this particular one, changing the non-occupied position, changing the name of it, changing the requirements of that, and so on. I think it obviously is still a major problem. So, that's my thoughts. In addition to what you had to say.
All right, I have. We're going to move on here to. I want to talk about homeowner disputes. You guys deal with a lot of that. Maybe you don't have to be specific, or you can if you want. But I'm interested to know.
Names.
What's that? Yeah, no names.
No names.
No names. I want to know some interesting homeowner disputes and how you dealt with them as the condominium manager.
I can jump in. We've already talked about my 4 Ps, so
yes.
Those are a lot of the disputes right there. But again, it's about being well documented. It's about being fair. It's about being consistent in your approach, and follow those enforcement processes, and be transparent and clear about the facts. Get the boards involved when you need to. Get legal involved if you need to. So just having that process in place will help, being, so an actual example, we had a major plumbing stack backup, that was damaging several floors. And so the owner of the unit causing the issue actually refused access. So rather than getting stuck in an argument, we did call the police, and try to get them involved as well. Turns out that this resident didn't want us in because they were a hoarder. And so it was the condition of the unit they didn't want us actually seeing and getting involved in that. So rather than getting involved in that, the team worked with the contractors to reroute and clear the blockage from a different way. So we stopped the damage, protected the building, and resolved the situation without actually relying on that uncooperative owner. So we were able to get in a different way. So creativity actually matters in a lot of those situations. Sure, there's the authority piece to that, and going down that path, but you're trying to mitigate damages, right? So how do we be creative, and how do we get in there and do something like that? So
Jennifer,
over to you,
I
Jennifer.
agree with Shane's position, and that the interesting thing, I was just going to add to your kind of the process. So thanks for laying out the process. Is actually more than just the letters and the compliance piece, but the phone call to the residents to say, oh, hey, did you know this is happening and it's causing quite the stir? And, that phone call and, connecting in and that piece kind of can often really dampen the situation. And then the other side of that, before I would go legal, I would request a meeting with all parties just to make sure that everybody is face to face, humanized again, and able to have open dialogue about why they're in this situation and what their their realities that they're facing are. I'm going to give you one that happened in a smaller community. They wanted to change their front door because they felt it was too cold on the inside, and the board declined it, which is a fair thing. A board can make that choice. And instead of accepting the board's response, because in fact the board declined it, but said if you would really like to, and if you really this is really important to you, you're more than welcome to provide a sample, and we would consider it further. The homeowner didn't like that answer whatsoever and brought it up and tried to make it a kind of a negative matter at the AGM. And, folks allowed that to happen. There was a conversation. They kind of let him for lack of better words, air his grievances. And then it just had to get shut down. It just had to get shut down. And so a board member did just say, you know what, thanks for your perspective, but you have your answer, and if you want to have your door changed, your next steps, right? It doesn't make the property manager who delivered your message bad. And that was the angle in which that homeowner was going on, and it was just a really peculiar, it popped up out of nowhere, and it was just like playing whack-a-mole, and you're just like, whoa. And how do you support that, and how do you express without breaching confidentiality and unit-related matters and all of that in a really, respectful way? But yeah, homeowners can bring things up in a very interesting and kind of sidewind way when they don't like the answer, and when they show up at the AGM and expect to have that conversation, it's important that the chair works diligently to navigate that so the meeting's respectful for all.
We often, as managers, we often get in that position where we have to deliver the decision of the board to the owner, and we know they're not going to like the decision, right? And there's a diplomatic, proper way to do that, where we're not throwing the board under the bus per se, but we are being very clear that, hey, this isn't our decision, this is the board's decision, and we're acting, we're informing you on behalf of the board. And that can be difficult, but also the way you do that can be very helpful, right? For the person to understand the decision and what comes next, potentially, if they do want to take anything further, challenging that decision or not. But yeah, we get in those ones quite often, don't we? Before we're out of time, Jen, I don't know, did anything else burning? I really wanted to dig in on one of Jennifer's earlier comments. Is there anything else on your list?
No, I just wanted to reiterate we talked about this in the last episode, but you have such an interesting and difficult job being a property manager, because you're working like in a corporation, but with people's homes where things are very emotional, and that just came out in both of your answers. Like people get very strange about their home and their space, and they think that there's this, they have this privacy, but then you're part of a community. You're sharing your home, and that's always the funny one, and that just came out in both of your answers there. And it's just, you see a different side of people sometimes,
Well, and Jennifer didn't say this, but it's very possible that owner that wanted the door is going to try and get on the board to help get that decision going further, right? So that's a situation. Before we run out of time, I'd like to go back to Jennifer's earlier statement regarding matching managers with boards and communities. What makes a manager the right fit for a particular community or a particular board? And part B of that is, what do you do if a board asks for a different manager?
Yeah, fair. So I think there's so many elements around picking the best property manager to a board. And first and foremost, what does the board want? And I think there's a nuance here. What are they saying with words, but what are they not saying? What is the behind the scenes? What is the real reason why they're either asking for a new management firm or asking for a manager change, right? So I think it's really important that you dig in, you spend a little time with that board, you really get to know the true needs and the collective of the board, right? Not just a singular voice on the board. But you can see it. You can see when there's, say, a personality. Every board has a personality, and that is a different podcast that I would be happy to go through with you. But every board has a different personality, so it's
That'd be a
really
fun one, yeah.
kind of identifying that personality and then trying to match it with somebody who will dovetail in. And so I don't mean somebody who's going to hover over them, who's going to do whatever, but really what is going to create a collaborative relationship so that the board can direct. Is that what Shane said? The board can direct and the manager can work through the processes and navigate to the final product. And so that's, I've spent, it'll be a good 17, 18 years doing this. And it's not just in condo land. Like, every community has a personality. It has its needs, its wants, its desires, its wish list, it's all of that. And it has its, let's say, negatives too. Like, it has all the stuff. And so knowing your manager really well, like taking the time to get to know them as a human being. Some people can handle conflict and, kind of, they're amazing at conflict resolution. Some people are just amazing at it. So if you have a board that's going through major change and you have a manager with available capacity who's a change manager, who has had successful change management experiences, that would be an initial let me see, right? That's an example of how you could align to the personality of the community board and the skills and or personality of the manager. But it's also all the other factors. It's location and size of the community to the experience level. So it's all the nuts and bolts of what will make them successful for what you're being hired for. And then you have to level it up to make sure that there's a true fit for personalities as well, because you could have oil and fire if you put the wrong PM with the wrong board, right? Like, it's a reality. And I'm sure, Shane, you are shaking your head. Brad, you too. You guys know, like, it happens. When there's a misfire on that connection, oh my goodness, that is why you need to try and do it right the first time, without a doubt.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's one thing when they're already your client and you've had that experience and you know how they operate. It's even harder, though, when it's a new corporation coming into your business and you've spent an hour with them interviewing them, right? There's not a lot more time that you've had and maybe not all the board was there. And so it's kind of, to me, it's a gut feel, and it's the personality, the types of questions that they asked you in the interview. It's the, what projects do they have coming up? How old is the community? Can I put a less experienced manager there? does it have to be someone that's been doing this a very long time? It's, it's the size again of the portfolio, it's the location. It's, I mean, we cover quite a bit of Southwestern Ontario. So it's a challenge to be like, okay, well, I have to have someone local and I have to someone with the experience level. And so, and sadly, some boards prefer and work better with a female over a male, like it takes all of that into account. I mean, you got to look at all of that. And so it is, and make sure that you're not overtaxing the manager. And we can talk about manager burnout and all of, and the number of managers that you have and so on. I mean, it is definitely a task in itself trying to align properly.
What is the average number of properties that someone would, one property manager would manage?
Oh, we're out of time for this episode, guys. You don't have to answer that one.
I'm like, oh,
no, I'm joking.
That is all. I was going to say that is such a loaded question.
Is it a controversial question? This is unplug.
It is so loaded. I mean, it is a very common question in an interview for new business.
Yeah.
But there's so many factors, right? So, I mean, if you just said, I mean, or my company is 100% portfolio based. So I don't have any on-site managers. We manage everything from high rise right through to vacant land, common element condos and that type of thing. But, it's different from this sake that, if I said to you, oh, that manager we're going to give you has 15 corporations. Okay, well, someone hearing that in an interview without support to that answer, they're going to go, you've completely just, overloaded your manager. Well, you don't know that. I mean, I have to tell you, maybe they have a bunch of corporations that only have 5 units. Okay, maybe, they've been doing this for 15 plus years and they can handle that. I'm going to tell you that, there is a limited license manager that's assisting my manager. So that takes all of that off of there. Then we get into the operations and the administration area. Then we get into, like it has so many components that you can't just say, oh, I have 15 and, immediately, flags are up.
Because it depends on how many units, what type of condo it is, what their needs are. Yes, definitely.
Right, exactly. And and every one of my managers,
no one's going to answer the question for me.
They want to get the experience. No, and I won't. And they want to get the experience, right? So every one of my managers has a building. Everyone has a vacant land. Everyone has a common element. I want them to get the experience in every type of corporation, a condo that's out there. So no, it's no easy.
Fine,
answer.
Shane. Fine.
Yep.
Let's see if Jennifer can commit.
There is a range.
Yeah.
Oh, there's definitely a range. Yes.
I did ask for a range.
I think it could be one if you have a singular property. Yeah, but if it's a singular property that requires a full-time manager, that's one. There it is, done. But if it's portfolio, the way Shane was mentioning, in which we also have a significant amount of our managers are portfolio managers as well. And we manage everything from small to really big. And so, you have to balance that too. But I think the answer is between 8 and 12 is about a good range, a good number, depending on the quantities, depending on the experience. Of course, there's going to be less and there's going to be more based on all the factors that Shane and I just chatted about. But I think if you're a board looking for a manager that has capacity, again, keeping in mind what your community is and what you're adding in, 8 to 12 seems to be a solid number for a range perspective. What do you think, Brad?
Well, in a sales meeting, my answer is 6. But that's
this
a joke.
This is not a sales meeting.
Did you see my eyes? I'm like, what?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you can't just answer that
up
number.
on all three of you. I feel so powerful right now.
No, but it's a very important question, and we understand why boards want to know that because they want to make sure they're hiring a company and getting an assigned manager that has the capacity to serve them well, right? And that, honestly, that's the final answer is we're going to assign a portfolio where the manager has capacity to serve you well. Like that's the bottom line. And one portfolio of 3 communities that has crazy projects and lots, 12 meetings a year plus committee meetings plus special assessments going on, and that 3 could be 50 hours a week of manager's time, where to Shane's point, 15 might be handled well in 40 hours because they only have a couple board meetings a year, and they're very low maintenance. There's just so many factors to really provide an answer. So I agree with what both of you have said, and I think ultimately it's as leaders of management companies that we're giving the proper workload to our team, and I don't say just managers, the team, right, to share and provide what's needed for that community. That's the bottom line: is, are we providing the service to the community?
Yeah, it's about the support, and I mean it's also for the mental health of the manager. Their physical.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
one of the questions should be how many. What's your turnover of staff? How many staff do you have off on mental leave or short-term leave of some sort? It's a challenging industry, and I mean, to me, that's more important than how do you take care of your staff as an owner? I mean, I can tell you about our benefit plans. I can tell you, that piece, and me looking after my team is the most important piece to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, at the end of the day, Shane definitely alluded to, as owners of companies, we have a bit of a different role. It was brought up during the on-call portion. That being said, one of the biggest and most successful pieces is how do you treat your team and how do you take care of your staff to ensure that they are then able to take care of your clients. And if you're not, as a business owner, spending time and effort in that space to take care of the folks that work for you, you'll have a revolving door. That'll be just an absolute revolving door situation. And when you do have a leader who puts value back into the team and ensures that everyone's doing well, from all sides. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if we're having a bad day at home, it kind of just spills everywhere, as humans, that's just how it goes. And so it's more than just the professional that's in front of you. It's taking care of and being supportive to and navigating the whole person in front of you. And I think that is so important. And thank you for bringing that up, Shane, because it is key to having good, solid managers who want to learn, grow, and thrive in the environment that you're providing. And back to Brad's point about that number, that magic number, how many do they manage? That's an example of what are they actually asking. What they're actually asking is, do they have capacity and can they do this job? Can you give them reasonable assurances that your team and your manager can truly take care of their needs for the future? And so it's less about the number and more about the insecurity of change and, providing that comfort level that your manager and team can do it.
Yeah, just on top of that point, just around like creative ways on how to support your manager and taking that burden off is the emergency on-call piece, right? I don't use call centers. My staff are actually handling the emergency calls. And I think in some firms that are out there, the manager is on call 24/7, and they shouldn't be. From my perspective, our managers get a week of on-call 24/7, but they only do it once every 3.5 months. So they're not on call. So it's about having the processes in place where they're actually being able to be resourceful, know where the contractors to call in the event of an emergency, where are all the key people to call in an emergency situation and that type of thing. So, it's trying to remove some of that burden off of your staff as well and being creative. So it's just a little side note that I had there.
Shane, I'm kind of chuckling inside right now because I don't know how we haven't met yet. Us too, or can I just say me too? We also don't have our managers on 24/7. I think that's mean. I told you right from the top in the Would You Rather, I like to sleep. I want to make sure that our team also has the opportunity to have a proper night's rest. Yes, for sure, there's a rotation where they're on for a week as well. But outside of that, they are able to navigate the difference. And I think it's so important that managers are not on call 24/7, because it doesn't allow for a proper restful night. And we all know that the key to mental health is like exercise, food, and sleep, guys. Sleep. So
But we all need some work-life balance there in our,
we need to grab that coffee.
Yeah,
Yes,
we need
absolutely.
some work-life balance there. And I think that's actually a great way to end this episode. Brad, do you have anything else to add?
No, I mean, we've alluded a couple times. We could go down a few more of these holes in a whole
we could
other
talk for
episode,
hours.
which we may well do, because there's lots to discuss around this. But yeah, we greatly appreciate the insight today, both Shane and Jennifer. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining us for episode 3 of Condos Unplugged. Yes,
Thanks for
Condos
having us,
Unplugged,
too.
to our speakers, Jennifer and Shane, and to those of you out there, share, like, comment, and for you, to our speakers as well, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you soon. That's a wrap for this episode of Condo Unplugged by CCI. We hope that you found it informative, insightful, maybe even a little bit unplugged.
If you enjoyed the show, we have one request. Please subscribe, like, and share it with the condo community so we can get these conversations around to more people. Got any questions, ideas, or a topic you'd like us to tackle? Please visit our website and let us know what you want to hear.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected.
Stay informed and always
Keep it condo.